What is up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 3 of season 2 of MIR 97 Hot Takes. My name is Matt. I am blessed to be one of the hosts on this wonderful show. And today I am joined by one of our usuals, Paul McCann. Paul, how are you?
I'm very well, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing great. In addition to Paul, we have our wonderful producer who you all know and love for the Kellen Acosta candle and the Harold's Chicken, Johnny Dean jersey. That is my boy, Johnny. Johnny, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Great to be here.
Great to be here. And once again, I'm sorry about the candle. You know, I'm very sorry about that.
I appreciate the apology. We'll get back up. We're on our way back.
I'm glad to hear that. And thirdly, and finally, a new member of the team has joined Hot Takes for this episode and maybe for future episodes. And that is Joe's better half, E-Ray Durson. E-Ray, how we doing today? Excuse me, Eray, not E-Ray.
Get Souquet off this damn team.
Here we go.
He hasn't even played.
Exactly. Waste of cap space.
Arnaud
Central is not a hot
leading-
take, right?
Yeah, right. Well, Eray, it's really, really great to see you, even though I saw you like 4 days ago on our
I saw
super
you way
long
too
journey
much
to
over the
Columbus.
weekend. Way too
Yeah,
much.
true. Yeah, I agree. But that's what brothers are like, you know, and that's totally okay at the end of the day. But seriously, the three of you, thank you so much for hopping on a Thursday night, the second Thursday of the month, to record Hot Takes. I'm super excited to dive into this episode. For those of you who don't remember the premise of Hot Takes, basically you have the opportunity the first week of every month to submit your own Hot Takes on MIR97's Twitter and Instagram. You'll submit it in on a Google form, and we'll discuss them on our show the second week of every Thursday. In addition to this recording, we'll also have the live recording going on the last Thursday of every month. So if you want to talk to us, all three of us, or all four of us, however many people are on the call, or you want to live chat your specific hot takes or questions or thoughts, that is a perfect opportunity to do so. So we have this recorded one the second Thursday of every week or month, excuse me, and then the live one at the end of every single month. So lots of opportunities for you to get your emotions out, your feelings out, and all of that in between, because I know that this fan base has a lot of feelings. That being said, before we look to the future and we start diving into these takes, we wanted to real quick rapid fire recap Chicago Fire versus Columbus Crew that happened this past Saturday. So gentlemen, what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to ask you 4 questions. I just want one answer off the top of your head. Let's do this. Starting off, Paul, we're going to start with you. Who is your man of the match?
I'm going to go with Fabi.
Fabian Herbers, aka the best player on our team, low-key. Okay, that's a good one. John, what you thinking?
Toby Sahlquist.
Toby Sahlquist. I know we're going to talk about Toby a little further in this episode because there's been a lot of takes about him on social media, but that's definitely a good shout. Rai, what you thinking?
Obviously, Fabi. And that pains me to say, just because I was never really on the Fabi train, and well, it doesn't pain me to say. It's just it's a bag of mixed emotions. I'd say he's really started to shine this year, I think.
I know you do have a Fabian Herbers Evolution FIFA or Ultimate Team card though, which
But yeah,
really
that's
means
more of
that
a
you like him
meme,
little
though.
bit.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't like him that much.
memes.
It's just like he was the only fire player that I could do for that evolution. So I was like, all right, we're taking Fabi all the way. So he's like 87 overall now in FIFA, and he's actually decent in game.
Yeah, 87. That's pretty good. I think I'm going to switch it up and go with Chris Brady. This guy came in with I know I just said one word, but I'm just going to violate that because Arai just violated that. This guy came in with some clutch saves both in the first and second half. And I know obviously he ended up conceding the second goal, which by no means was his fault. He actually made a great first save. But I'm going to go with him. I think he deserves some recognition, our brick wall Brady in the back of the net. So that's our man of the match. Everyone heard their answer. We're going to go reverse order flop of the match. I'll go first. I feel like this might be a consensus. If it's not a consensus, maybe I'll be a little concerned. I'm going with Xherdan Shaqiri. He was pretty bad. Arai?
Shaqiri by a long shot. I'll keep it on one word. Sorry, I talk a lot.
You're totally good. I get it. John?
Just to be different, Brian Gutierrez.
Okay.
Get out
There's
of here.
always someone who's got to be
I mean, like, if
different,
it wasn't Shaq, it was him. I'm sorry.
John,
Well,
word for
but
word.
was it
you
Shaq
just stole
or
my
was it
answer.
not?
I'm
Was it
just
Shaq
trying
or
to.
was it
I
not?
literally said I'm doing this to be different.
Wait, did Paul say you stole his answer? Paul, were you going to say Guti too?
I was going to say word for word what John said, just to be different. But yeah, it's got to be Shaq. For the team's captain to be as invisible as he was, get fucked.
Interesting.
Beat that out.
Well, a little bit more of a split than I was anticipating, which isn't a bad thing. The whole point of this show is to disagree with each other, which is why we love it so much. Third question, we're going to start with John this time. What is your biggest takeaway from the Columbus game?
Chris Brady is not going to last the year in Chicago. He's going to be gone, not of our own, not for bad reasons. Somebody's going to buy him probably in the summer, and he will be in Europe come fall.
Interesting.
We
All
can
right,
see
let's
your
pass
eye.
it. Yeah, we can see it right now. We're all looking at each other on cam because we love each other's faces. By the way, that's what that comment was about. So, all right, you had a lot of takeaways from the Columbus game, as you might hear when we put the vlog out on Saturday. Hopefully Saturday, if I get to it. What's your biggest takeaway?
Biggest takeaway is that Sheridan Shaqiri should not be the captain of our team. I know we talked in the one of the regular Men in Red pods about Rafa giving up the armband, and well, I sort of agree with that now that I've seen him perform over the first few games. He doesn't seem fully here. I don't know what's going on with him, but there's no way Shaqiri can lead this team, in my opinion. That was my biggest takeaway, just based on what I've seen and his pouting towards the sideline at the end of the game. I'm really trying not to read into that, but it's hard not to, just given the situation.
Absolutely. For those of you who don't know, apparently, according to some fans who were by the bench, there was a Klopas scolding of Shaqiri as he left the pitch, which you never want to see when it's your captain, your $12 million star, because that means clearly he was absolutely dog shit, for lack of a better way of saying it. Paul, biggest takeaway? What are you thinking?
I think the Columbus game confirmed that this team on their day can go toe to toe with the big boys in this league. They needed 12 minutes of injury time to get the winner. They were still in the game against Cincinnati. There's still a lot to fix that we'll talk about later in the show, but I think there's reason to be hopeful for this team. We'll just see if we can get the ball to Kuipers or not.
Paul, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth, so I'm glad you said that. My biggest takeaway was that this team can hang. You look at their first 3 games, tie against Philly, yeah, you had the loss against Cincinnati, and you had the dramatic loss against Columbus. The issue is they have the talent. The talent's there. They're going to fight, but the issue is Klopas is not as good of a coach as Wolfer Nancy or a Pat Noonan or a Jim Curtin, and he's not going to win those 50-50 duels. And that was very clearly shown in Columbus. That's very clearly shown in the last 10 years when we blow leads in the 95th minute. The mentality hasn't been there. And once again, that's something that game after game completely gets the biggest takeaway from every single game in Chicago Fire history. Final question, and we're going to be done with the past because the past sucks anyways. You can't change the past yet. Outlook for Montreal, scoreline. Give me your MVP of the game too. I'll go ahead and say this first because I've already told it to the writing team. I'm going 3-1, I believe is what I said. MVP Hugo Kuipers. He gets a what's 2 goals called? Not a bag.
Brace.
What am I talking? Brace, not a bag. I don't know why I was troubling. 3-1. Hugo, which means juice in Spanish, by the way. Found that out recently.
Fire juice.
Fire juice. Yeah, I'll pass it over to John. John, score.
I'm gonna go 2-0. I think this team is desperate. We really need a win. They're gonna get it.
2-0. Okay, first shutout of the season too. Eray?
I'm gonna go 1-0. Fire.
Fire juice. 1-0. Still
Fire
a
juice.
shutout, but it's gonna be a sweat.
Kuipers gets his first goal. And yeah, that's about it. And then Chris Brady with excellent performance as always, but especially excellent.
Good to know. You heard it here first. It's the third, technically, because he's the third person to go, whatever. Paul, what are you thinking?
I'm going to go 2-1 Fire and Acosta for MVP. He's going to boss that midfield.
It's time, man. He's really acclimating into the city well. I don't know if you guys follow him on Instagram, but man, he loves the city so far. So hopefully he can lead us to glory. Let us know in the comments of this video or on Twitter or Instagram if you agree with both our man of the match, flop of the match, biggest takeaway, and outlook for Montreal. Let us know who was most right and let us know who was most wrong. We love that sort of debate, and we will call you out if you call us wrong, which is all part of the fun of it. That being said, I'm going to pass it over to our wonderful producer, John, who's going to lead us in the next segment that we like to call the Host Hot Takes.
All right, fellas, before we jump into what the community has to say, I have some thoughts, to be frank. So, first and foremost, we're starting in the most obvious place. Um, so, as it's been discussed on here, I'm sure you guys talked about it in the bonfire. Everybody was very concerned about Toby Sahlquist not being included in match days 1 and 2, whether it's a substitute or completely off the 18. The rumors of him being bad as being spread by Jiggly specifically, very, very exaggerated.
Damn it, Jiggly.
Toby was he was not perfect, but he had a really strong day. Was the obvious better center back in our pairing against Columbus last week. So, A, thoughts on his first performance. B, who is the odd man out between? We expect Tehran to move on sometime this year. Who would be the odd man out between Toby, Maury, and Rafa? Matt, why don't you start on this one?
I mean, it's a great question. First off, I just want to make it abundantly clear that I've always been on the Toby train, as I'm now calling it. And I didn't want anyone to panic. But after you come out with such a fantastic club debut like you did against the reigning champions, you deserve praise and you deserve a starting nod. And that's what he should be moving forward on. That being said, who should be lining up next to him? I'm under the impression that it should be Mari Pineda. I don't think Mari Pineda is much better than Rafa Schihos. And for those of you who don't know, I've never been as big of a Rafa Schihos truther as some of the other members of the MIR org in the greater Fire community. But I think Mari is a guy who deserves the opportunity to show what he's got, at least, in competition with Tehran, who's still going to be competing for that center back position until he leaves in the summer, if he leaves in the summer. And Rafa very clearly in the first 3 games has shown regression. And that's concerning because he's 32, 33. And you need someone who's going to be steady in the back line if we want any hope of winning games. And although I think Pineda's ceiling has kind of been reached ultimately, his ceiling is just around where Rafa Schihos is, with a lot younger and fresher legs and probably a little bit of a cleaner mentality at this point. So Rafa's kind of on the down, Mari's on the up, and I think that leaves Tehran's future a little bit more like Jello than what we initially thought. Do you move on from Rafa? Do you move on from Carlos because he's young and he's going to get you a transfer fee? Like, what are you going to do to stay competitive? So I'll go Mari and Toby.
Awesome, Paul.
It's hard to disagree with what Matt said there. Kind of took every word out of my mouth, which we seem to be doing a lot of today. Yeah, I agree that Rafa is just going downhill right now. We can all see it. So it's time to look at other options. I think Tehran, we all know he's wanting to get out of Dodge at some point this year, but if he really wants that move, he's really got to step up this year. Just think with Pineda, it's hard to really commit to him because he's so untested, but we've got to give him a try. He's got to start coming in a bit more.
Yeah, I would surprisingly agree with Matt. I think Toby and Pineda are the 2 center backs that should be going forward. And and it pains me. This actually pains me to say because I've always been a Rafa Schihos guy. I've got a Rafa Schihos jersey, but the dude has looked terrible this year. And I don't know if he's got something like personal going on, if he's like on his way out of the club or what is going on with him. But he's not. I do have a hot take though. What if instead of picking 2, we pick 3?
No.
Like, what if we go with 3 in the back, or like a 5-3-2 or something?
We will talk about this.
Ooh,
we will talk
it's
about
a segue for later.
Yes.
Just keep it in the back of your head, listeners.
Yeah. Thanks for checking the outlier, right? Anyway, perfect. Okay, love that. It's ironically enough. The next section is actually exclusively. It's exclusively about Mauricio Pineda, actually, because I feel like he's a very, very under-discussed member of the team and somebody who's going to play a pivotal role this season, whether we like it or not. So we're going to call this, and I'm naming it on the fly, Steps of Fire. Each take here is going to get hotter, and we've got 4 steps. So first, Delana says that Maury should be starting every game. I don't even think that's a hot take. I think everybody here agrees. Can I get a yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe not every game, but most games.
I'm also I'm
for
really
the time
curious
being,
to see
right?
I'm really curious to know if that just is small sample size, if it's just us, or if actually people in the community would agree with that too. Really curious. Let us know in the comments, please.
Yeah. Fulham was really different though that.
Very anecdotally, I had one tweet that was like, "Hey, I love Mauricio Pineda," and it felt like everybody was out of the woodwork, like he's kind of our best player. And actually, the second step on this comes from @ConnorZale on Twitter, who responded to that and said Mauricio Pineda should be our captain in 2024. He's a homegrown player. He's busted his ass, and he's one of the better defenders on the club right now. Paul, start us off. Is that an insane thought?
I wouldn't say it's insane, but it is wrong. In a polite way. Nah, I don't think he's done enough to be captain. I think guys like Brady, Guti, they are more deserving, and even they aren't really ready for it. It's our man, Fabian Herber's. Hairbearers is the guy that should have it.
You think Guti? Really?
No, I think he's more deserving than Pineda.
Yeah, I'm saying like you think he's more deserving?
Yeah.
Respectfully, everyone's
Fair.
more deserving than Shaq.
Yeah.
That's a low bar.
It's a pretty damn low bar. I'd give it to Aragoni before I gave it to Shaq. Like, that's what I'm saying as a new guy. Now, Aragoni's a dog. I'm sorry. I'm taking this like you asked me to be on hot takes. I'm giving you my hot take. Okay?
Tangent.
All right, answer the question. Should Mauricio Pineda be the captain?
Yeah, I could see him being the captain, but I don't know if he's a leader. To be honest, I think he's a good player, decent average quality, and solid in the back. But I don't know if he'd be the captain. I think Herber's just based on tenure with the senior team at least. Because when did Pineda join the senior team?
2020, I believe.
So Herber's has got like a year or two on him then. So I don't know. It's not all about tenure, but I think the person who has dealt with this team for the longest, frankly, should be the captain because if they're still here.
Well, yeah. Matt, what do you think?
I think as time will come, I think similarly to Herber's, like Pineda very well could be a fire lifer. And I think at this point, everyone would be very, very happy with that. So I wouldn't be surprised if, 5-10 years from now, Mari, who's like, once again, like Eray said, like not going to be the greatest player on the team, but he's going to be a rock and he's going to be a leader. And sometimes that's what you need in a captain, like Dax McCarty type style. You're not going to be the best player on the pitch, but you're a bulldog and you'll fight for whatever team's on your crest. And at the end of the day, that's really valuable when it comes to being a captain. I don't think it's his time. Fabi's, obviously he's an alternative captain, so he's in front of him. But give me 5 years and maybe that answer changes.
Yeah, fair take. Okay, stepping up to the next one here. This one is from my own brain. So if you think whoever wrote this doesn't know ball, you're incorrect. Okay. Mauricio Pineda should start as Kellen Acosta's midfield partner. And hear me out. I'm going to give a caveat here. This is when Gutman is healthy and you can let Rafa or Turan play that left center back, whomever. This is in a world where Aragoni and Gutman both get forward in the attack. Mori drops out and we play into a back three there, and then he can transition to a midfield role on defense. Thoughts?
There's too many ifs and too many necessary factors in that situation there to feel confident in it.
That feels pretty straightforward to me. I don't know.
I'm following.
Okay, Matt, you're following. You start.
This happened and then this happened and then this
Yeah,
happened.
I'm processing.
This would be a good idea.
Please delay me.
Listen, I think right now, if you're putting your best 11 on the pitch, Mauricio Pineda is a center back. If he's going to be a 6, I don't think he's the best in that position, so I'm not starting him. I think Federico Navarro, and I'm just going to say it, I think Gaston Jimenez are both better options than Pineda at the 6. Probably a hot take. I really don't know, once again, what people will think of that. But if you're putting your best 11 on the pitch and Gutman's healthy, so you could put Turan or Wamsberg or Selquist or Rafa, whoever it is, as a partnership, Pineda comes off the bench and he becomes an incredibly vital, probably your first defensive guy off the bench to support, when you're up a goal or two, which I don't think is a bad thing. You need a strong bench, and he's a guy that can definitely contribute there. And this goes right after I said that in 5 years he could be the captain. So who knows what the squad outlook will look like in 5 years, and maybe by then he'll be good enough to be like a locked-in starter day to day, regardless of what position.
Yeah, Paul? I know you kind of did, but anything else?
Yeah, I just think there's better players that can go in that position, do it better in the role than Pineda can. Pineda can do it, but call on them if they've got injuries or suspensions to contend with, and that's the formation we really want to play at that time. But yeah, for me, it's not a focus for this team right now.
Arai?
Is this what you were telling me to hold off on talking about? Because my idea was different.
No, but I thought this would also be a good
okay.
way to
Okay.
discuss if you wanted to talk about a back three, because
I
it's
see.
kind of like
I
a
see.
modified back three.
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. No, I mean, if I remember correctly, when Pineda joined the team, wasn't he started off playing as a CDM?
So
As a
he's
six?
listed
Yeah.
on the roster as a midfielder / defender.
Yeah. I don't know if he takes the spot from the likes of Kellen Acosta, Fede Navarro, Gaston. I think that's kind of what the other guys were sort of pointing out. I don't know. I see him as pretty solid in the back, so I feel like that's kind of where I want him.
All right. I'll stand alone on this one. I think it's a good idea. And I play a lot of FIFA.
Character building.
Yeah. Hey, man. No. Awesome. Okay. And this one is definitely tainted by the Columbus game, to be honest. As previously mentioned, I was very disappointed in Brian Gutierrez's performance. Is Mauricio Pineda currently not our best non-homegrown or non-goalkeeper homegrown player, but playing the best?
No. Guti.
Yeah,
2 words. That's it.
Goody.
That's it. It's close. It's getting closer. But
He's in
Guti
better
scored that
form.
banger.
That's I
Yeah.
think, Paul, that's more the question, right? Is he in the best form? Because
Yeah,
outside of that goal, I have not been overly wowed with Brian Gutierrez this year so far.
That's a bad take.
Is it?
Did you see his golazo in the
I
opener?
literally
Said
said
outside the goal.
outside of his goal. Yeah.
Outside the goal. Outside the goal.
And it's more
outside of the
it is
goal.
more so of like I know I've talked to Paul about this. I think I've talked to both of you guys at some point of his work back. He isn't doing anything defensively.
So let me tell you, okay, yeah, Guti's not designed for defense, all right? Like, look at him. That dude's
But you
not
can't
bodying
just
anybody.
but you can't just not.
yeah.
You can use that excuse for guys like Messi. You can't do it for Brian
Yeah,
Gutierrez.
that's not.
If he were contributing more offensively, I would be like, yeah, fair enough, man. Like,
All right, here's the
And
problem.
you
is that-
don't need to be a big guy to fill in the gaps either, or get between the ball and the player. Like, don't need to be muscling guys out of the game.
All right, so here's my take. Guti's not being used to his fullest potential because they're playing him out in the wing. The dude's a 10, and now we have freaking block Shaqiri in the middle of the field. And, it's pretty much like
What, Shaqiri?
block Shaqiri is like walking around like a little block, like,
All right,
I mean,
thanks
come
for
on. No, I mean, like, if Guti was in the middle, he'd produce. I guarantee that.
I actually disagree with you, and here's why. And I don't think it's his
Wrong.
fault. I think he has. Okay, well, you can just hear me out, man. Okay. I think it's just the attacking schematics that we have in our tactics are not built to score a lot of goals and produce a lot of chances. Like, if you guys have been watching games, our play style is either super counterattack, and we suck in the final third. I don't know if that's personnel or tactics, but the other tactic is hoof the ball up, get it to Hugo, and play it wide, which also really works because Hugo's not the biggest guy in the world. So I'm not saying that Guti's set up to fail, but I'm saying that, like, for him to develop properly, the coach isn't playing the tactics needed to really unlock his true potential. Same with Marin, same with Hugo, which means juice in Spanish, by the way. So I'll say that I also think he's being played out of position, which is troublesome. So I agree with Orion in that sense. But ultimately, like, he's a star boy. This is his breakout year. He's got to start making the magic moments happen. He did it against Philly. We really need to see something against Montreal, or I don't know who's next, but continuing on, he needs to be better.
I mean, that kind of goes to my point a little bit, just in that he's okay. Yes, he's out wide, and like he can still create from there, right? He should still have the potential to create, whatever. But whatever tactically is going on with this team is just falling apart in the final third. And I don't think that you can fault Guti for that, because there are essentially, four guys who are supposed to be out, like, in the final third almost at any given time.
Yeah. Let me you'll have to excuse me. I'm going to do a piggyback question on this for all you guys, because I'm very curious to what you think. Is it me, or does it feel like we built this team to play with possession in the final third, right? To to have the ball in the final third, pass, find openings. And yet Frank insists on playing a very counterattack, kick and run type of offense. Because from where I'm sitting, that's how it feels. And
That's definitely how it feels.
That's not how Hugo plays. That doesn't seem to be how Shaqiri plays at this point. Doesn't really seem to be where Guti thrives. Marin's fast, so it works for him. But that's how it's feeling.
Yeah, with Shaq, who has no pace, that doesn't work for him. But then again, Shaq like never runs regardless, so best you'll get is like a fast jog out of him. But no, I mean it definitely feels like tactically the team's set up to fail in the final third right now. Like there's a reason. I think Kuipers could have plenty of goals if we had a coach who knew how to use them.
He's getting the ball too far away from the box. He's getting the ball 40 yards from goal and being asked to do a lot of work with the ball to get the ball in the box and get a shot on target, and that's clearly not the guy that he is. And he's been asked to play this role, and he always just ends up running it down to the flag, hoping that he's got some runners that he can get the ball to. And you look at Shaq, and he's just stood in the centre circle with his hands in his head, looking like a block.
Matt, you look deep in thought over there. Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to my earlier point of just Klopas not setting up his like Guti to succeed. It's kind of like that with the whole offense. The only reason I'm like, I'm not ready to say it's complete wash is because Hugo's only been in the mix for a month. And I'm interested to see if you allow him to acclimate a couple more months, if he changes the way he plays, or Klopas changes his style, or like the tactics overall, because he realizes, oh, this is not going to do anything productive if I just, he just backs up into a defender and then plays it wide, and he's not in the box to poach or anything like that. So once again, this is just me being kind of the opposite of Eray and being an irrational optimist. And to the point where I'm like always willing to give people the benefit of the doubt, and maybe that's like a fault of mine, but I'd like to reevaluate this particular hot take, 2 months into the future and see if we have any different feelings to it.
That's not how hot takes works. Thanks though. All right, we're gonna move on to our community takes. We've got some wonderful write-ins from some mainstays, and I feel like some new voices as well. So that'll be fun. So we are gonna start. And I think this one's going to be kind of mean, but we're going to start with Shaq. So Nate says that Shaqiri's overall work rate is astoundingly poor. The Fire need to drop their new captain to the bench and move Brian Gutierrez into the number 10 role. And then Renaud also echoed the sentiment, just said he needs to be benched over it. I think everybody's going to kind of say the same thing, but Paul, you start us off. Where are you at with Shaqiri? Is it worth getting him minutes at this point?
It's hard because obviously we're spending a lot of money on him, and you don't want it to be wasted going on the bench. And there's also the fact that he is the best set piece taker in the team. That seems to be the main way we're getting our goals right now. I see you, John, kind of giving a look.
When was the last time we had a set piece go above somebody's knees? I'm sorry.
Montreal last year. Tornado warning. That was all Shaq ever did on a set piece, in my opinion.
Great goal.
Matt, you're raising your hand.
He got his Olympico the other day, every week in pre-season. No, I was in the Olympico. That was a free kick.
That's pre-season. Pre-season doesn't count.
You don't count.
Oh,
Matt, what do you have? What do you have?
Raising my hand because I wanted to get my take in before Eray gets his take in because I want to see him react to mine. I'm actually going to make an argument for Shaq staying in the 11, and here's why. At the end of the day, I want my 11 best players on the pitch. If you take Shaq out and you put Guti in the middle, that means your left winger right now is Chris Muller. If you've watched Chris Muller play, he has not looked good. And I attest a lot of that to the injury, because before the injury, he was really fucking good. He was better than Marin. Now Marin is better than him. Miller's, still trying to figure it out. And he's a little bit of a wild card. I remember against Columbus, he turned that ball over so many times. He didn't look like it. He could 1v1 past whoever. I think it was Farsi, that right wing back on Columbus. And that's really, really bad. Guti, I have more confidence in that role. And at the end of the day, I'm putting Guti on the left and Shaq at the 10, even though I think Shaq is a huge problem. I'm not a Shaq truther. Ultimately, he's a talented player who's just tactically in the wrong way. He's probably playing the wrong possession, should be on the right wing. But I think because of personnel, you have to keep Shaq there, just because you want to keep your strongest players out on the pitch.
All right, I'll throw it to you in a sec. I'll throw it, Matt, really quick though. Could you not just have Fabian Herbers play on the left wing and have Gaston start alongside of Kellen Acosta? Because that still feels better than and like if you really think Shaqiri is one of the 11 best players on the team, why not let him
He's
actually
not.
play? Okay, I'm saying if he thinks, like why not give him 20 minutes at the end of the game? Say, give me everything in your tank for 20 minutes, as opposed to give me 45% of your tank for 70 minutes.
I mean, it's definitely an approach, and it's approach that's like certainly a solution. I still value Fabi a lot more in the middle of a pitch than I do out wide. These last three games, his bulldog mentality, kind of like Fede Navarro, has really, really come out, and he's become one of the best defensive assets on a team. He hustles back on D, he tackles, he wins the tackles, and he quickly transitions into offense. And I feel like you put him on the wing, you all of a sudden, a midfield in general that is crap at defending gets a lot worse at defending because Fabi's higher up the pitch instead of being further back by Acosta. So, I mean, it's definitely an approach. And if I see Fabi at left wing and Guti at the 10, I'm certainly not going to complain. Like, I think that'd be really, really interesting. I really value him in the middle. And then Gaston is probably gone in the summer, can be on the bench. Same with Fede, who both present two different skill sets, and you could bring them in situationally, depending on what the situation is.
All right. What do you want to say about Shaq?
I'd rather have Mauricio Pineda play the 10 than Shaq.
Let's go.
I mean, not actually, but I'd rather.
No.
Like, look, I don't care if Mueller has to come in. Like, Shaq just does not show that he gives a fuck about this team. There's my take. That's all I have to say.
That is correct. He does not give a fuck about this team, it looks like.
He's still one of the best 11 players on the pitch. Don't care.
Yep.
No, he's not.
agree with
Not
that.
when he doesn't care.
Yes, he is.
He's
Yes, he
maybe
is.
one of the most talented 11, but
He's a waste of space. Like, did you see him in Columbus, Matt? Did we go to the same game? It was a complete waste of space on that
Hey,
pitch.
I just want to back up real quick and say that he was my flop of the match. In fact, I was the first one to say he was the flop of the match. And if I remember correctly, you didn't even say he was the flop of the match. So I know he sucked. But ultimately, I would rather have him out there at the 10 than Mueller and Guti, that combo out on the wings.
I just
right
don't.
now,
I truthfully just don't understand that though, because it's like
That's
you
fine.
want players to play for the badge. Like you can't just put out like let's say we got Messi or something, right? Like theoretically, and the dude didn't want to play here. Why would we put him on the pitch if he doesn't want to be here?
Contractual obligations.
Yeah, but if there's no chance of producing.
well, by that logic, Arnaud Souquet should be starting every day. To be
Shut
fair.
up. Shut up.
Well, I'm saying to Paul's point about contractual obligations. All right, we're moving on. Second part of Shaq. This is from Rusty Shackelford, definitely a real name. Rusty says he'll be moved before the summer break. So, fellas, let me ask you
Please.
this: are we getting anything for Shaqiri, or is he leaving on a free at the end of the year?
he's leaving on a free at the end of the year. Speculation, for the record. Speculation.
3
He's leaving on a
syllables.
free.
And let's not forget,
Lugano.
two syllables. Euros. The Euros are happening in the summer break. He's not going anywhere before the Euros.
Yeah, that's a good point. There was the question of, is it going to be tougher for him to find a club mid-season as not, being unsigned, but I would tend to agree with you guys. All right.
And I think he'd make a good January signing for a European team. Maybe snuck into the next round in Europe and wants like a bit of quality in their team, like Lugano, who are looking to make some European runs in the coming years. So he'd be a good signing for a team like that who wants to step up their quality in the next round. If he
I could
shows
see
up.
it. I could see him going to Turkey or something, like playing for Galatasaray, Besiktas, Fenerbahce. They get a lot of old, washed-up players who didn't want to play for their clubs.
Yeah.
Matt, do you want to call out a club?
I mean, I think Switzerland's a pretty easy one to say, but I don't think Lugano. I think he's going to disaffiliate himself with the Mansueto Kingdom and go to one of the powerhouses like Zurich or Grasshopper or Basel or something, or probably Young Boys. Honestly, Rip Waffle Wiki.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't
Young
he?
Boys would be a good move.
He was an academy player at Basel, right?
Yeah.
So
so he'll probably go back to them actually then.
yeah, if he's going on a free, I don't see why not. Unless he wants to go do it one more time on a rainy
But isn't there
Wednesday
still a
night in
Heights
Stoke.
link? Isn't there still a Heights link with Basel?
But he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Now they're all
All right.
Lugano everything.
Moving on. Our next question comes from Mark. Our next take comes from Mark, and I'm actually inclined to agree with it. Mark says that Aragoni is one of the best transfers of the offseason. He also thinks the Fire are going to win 2-1 against Montreal. So, fellas, who's been your best acquisition of the offseason so far? Matt, we'll start with you. Is it Aragoni? Is it someone new?
So interpreting this as like Chicago Fire transfer of the offseason, not just MLS transfer
Well,
of the
this
offseason.
is a Chicago Fire podcast, not an MLS podcast.
It was vague. I had to check.
Dumbass.
As of today, which is I'm going to ignore that one from Eray.
Yeah, chill,
as of
man.
3/14/2024, he's the best transfer of the offseason. But I don't think he will be the best transfer of the offseason, even in like 2 months. I think Salquist, Gutman, and Hugo are all going to be higher up on the best transfers of this offseason, which I think is a really good thing. If Aragoni's fourth and he keeps up the pace of what he's doing, that's a great thing for the offseason and for the club. So, I mean, I'm not rooting for his demise to fall down my list of best transfers, but at the end of the day, that's not really a bad thing. And I'm really happy for the signing so far.
All right.
I'd say through 3 games, Aragoni. I would agree with Mark. He has shown that dog mentality that we need on this team. There was one play, again, I talked about on the regular Bonfire pod, and he had made those 2 tackles in that one play, and that's that dog mentality to just not give up and not waddle around the field hoping that things are convenient. In terms of, now I will answer a second part of that question. In terms of who I think is going to be the best transfer this offseason, I really hope that we get Hugo Kuiper some service. So I'd say those 2 guys. And then Salquist is solid, sure. But right now, through 3 games, Aragoni.
Yeah. Paul?
I think Aragoni has been pretty solid in the first 3 games. He is one of the better transfers. Personally, there is one player I can think of who has only made 1 appearance, but he hasn't misplaced a pass, hasn't committed a foul, hasn't conceded a goal. Andrew Gutman.
Yeah.
I do think
I am a Gutman. I'm a Gutman truther, and he will be the
Me
best
too.
out of all of them.
I was very
Gutman
excited
gang,
about him. I think Gutman's going
rise
to be
up.
great. But really, for me, I think Acosta. He's been partnered up with a guy who doesn't care in midfield, and he's not been incredible, but he's been good. A lot of good plays have come through him, so I think Acosta right now is the best move of the season.
I completely forgot to add him on my best transfer to the offseason list, but Aragoni very well at the end of the season could be 5th on that list, which once again, that's even a better thing, honestly.
Yeah.
Right. That would be a good thing.
I do want to add one caveat to the Gutman talk is that Andrew Gutman, if you were not aware, went to Indiana University. Matt Shabelman, huge Indiana University guy. I believe he also at one point was a part of Celtic Football Club.
Yep.
Paul McCann, noted big Celtic Football Club guy. So just wanted to set that up. Matt, what do you want? You raising your
I
hand.
would like to respond to that claim of bias.
It's not bias. I'm just saying, let's be.
It's a disclosure.
If you look,
Disclosure.
You do big J
You
journalism
look
here,
at what-
lad.
people are like, oh, Andrew Gutman's been on 5 different teams in 5 different years. Go look at his numbers at what he did with Atlanta, Colorado, Cincy, all the other teams he's
I
played for
was
in the
not
past.
trying to
In
imply he
MLS,
wasn't
okay.
good.
Okay. Just
He's been a
trying
solid
to play
player
the
at every
stats.
I
The stats
agree.
will back up my very inherent bias. In fact, right now I'm wearing an
He
Indiana
is.
sweatshirt.
Gutman is the Alex Caruso of the MLS.
He's a god.
Johnny Dean is
Honestly,
the
I'm just
Alex
gonna
Caruso,
gonna gonna end it on that. He is in fact a god.
I do just want to add, Matt, to your point, this has been I actually liked last year's, even as split as a lot of us here are on Souquet. I don't think he's a terrible player. I think he just didn't work here. But looking at all these guys who have come in this year, Aragoni's been solid. Toby in his first game was great. Acosta hasn't done anything spectacular, but he looks professional. Every time he has the ball, he's professional. We know what Gutman can do. And I'll say even Chase Gasper deserves a lot of credit for how he played against Columbus. I don't think he let anything by him. He did not look good against Philly, but also wasn't expecting to play. So a lot of respect for him there. And overall, this class has been like, it's been class, to be a little British about it. All right. Actually kind of transitioning to another offseason acquisition, maybe the biggest one we made after Juice. Dago says, Acosta has been average at best in these first 3 games. Should we be concerned? And then he threw in also that Fabi should be in the Ring of Fire, which, yeah, fair enough. So, Paul, how are you feeling about Acosta 3 games in? Overwhelmed, underwhelmed, perfectly whelmed? What do you think?
Like I said in the last question, he hasn't been great, but he's not been bad the first 3 games. But he's been doing a job with 2 midfielders, with Shaqiri just doing absolutely nothing. So I think he's done well, considering. I think once we get someone in the midfield with him that's actually going to try their arse, I think we're going to see a much better player from Acosta. And I think he's really going to open up this team this year.
Yeah. All right.
I'd say he's been above average for the Fire, maybe average in his own personal performances and the expectations we had of him. But it's early. And frankly, team's still gelling. So I'm not concerned. Herbers for the Ring of Fire? Come on. He hasn't won any. We haven't won anything with Herbers. I think you, no matter how, if Basti's not making the Ring of Fire, Herbers is not making the Ring of Fire. That's it. End of discussion.
Interesting. Matthew?
So while you were saying the question, I pulled up his stats because I just wanted to manage some expectations with this wonderful community. Acosta is not going to be a guy who pads the stat sheet. In fact, the most amount of assists he's had in his career is 5, and the most amount of goals he's had is 3. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because Acosta's job is to be the glue of the midfield. He's not going to be flashy. He's not going to step over and Rabona and all this fancy shit that you want your star, midfield signings to do. But he's a guy who's going to facilitate the midfield back and forth. And I think so far in the first 3 games, 2.5, I know he subbed on at the opener. He's largely done that. And I think the expectations that we should have for him are largely what he's showing. To a higher degree, you want to see him push the transition a little bit. But I don't think this is a guy, you're going to expect to score banging goals outside of MLS Cup finals or penalties or something like that, because I know he did that with LA. But I've been happy with him. At the end of the day, he's a leader, and he's going to have to do more if he wants to will this team into 3 points. But I've been fine with him. I really have no quarrel.
Yeah. Side note, don't take this for more than the comparison I'm making. It feels a little Tom Brady to the Buccaneers, where I got to get all your shit together before I can get my shit together. Everybody else needs to step up before I can do my job.
I'm cool with that. Herber's Ring of Fire, that's probably a bit, it's probably not a real thing, but that'd be funny if we win MLS Cup. Maybe Herber's in the Ring of Fire. That's all I'm saying, but we're not at that point. So stupid question. I'm kidding. Sorry, Dago. I love you.
If he stays here long enough, he and Mauricio Pineda, co-captains. All right. Moving on. Dave McCarty has the next question here. Dave says, almost 10%, this is a long one. Almost 10% of our season is complete. Our fullbacks have more shots on target with 1 than our forward, and the team is averaging just over 2 shots on target per match. We appear to be continuing to demonstrate that the folks responsible for acquiring and paying for talent have no clue what needs to be improved on the field for this club. We spend a lot of money in a few places, and they consistently do nothing for us. Until we clean house at the top, this team is not going to compete for anything. Matt, you can start on this one. There's been a lot of pushback on the whole Heights in thing that we saw prior to week 1. So start us off.
That's fine. Dave McCarty, I think also fake name, play on Dax McCarty. Not 100% here. Sorry if that's actually a real name, but it's just too coincidental. For the first year in the Heights era, I don't think this is a personnel issue. I don't. I think the talent is there to compete. I think Klopas is the issue, and I've said this earlier, and I know to an extent everyone here has kind of said this, is the team's just not set up properly. The attacking style is weird. The defending style is weird. The midfield style is weird. And at the end of the day, the players are playing like the coach wants you to play, or at least that's how it's supposed to be. If you look at it like positionally, we've upgraded every single possession from last year. It's definitely not a personnel issue. Heights has actually done a good job of building this team. The issue is, can Klopas take the pieces that Heights has brought in and make them mesh together the way they're supposed to, not necessarily the way Klopas wants them to, if that makes any sense at all. So I disagree with Dave here. And although I do think, eventually we will need to clean house and maybe Heights still isn't the answer after this year, but right now I don't think he's the primary problem. Maybe I'll get a little flack for that. Like John said, we've gotten a lot of flack for this Heights and stuff, and I'm not saying that, but I think there's bigger problems than what Heights did this offseason.
Yeah. Paul?
Yeah, I just agree with Dave as well. Having spent time talking to a good few of the people that make the recruitment decisions in the organisation at various events in the off season, these people are very smart, they know what they need to do. It's getting the deals over the line that can be hard. It's hard for a lot of teams. I do think it's the players' recruitment's been fine. We just haven't seen the returns yet that we were hoping for. For me, what it is, like Matt said, it's Klopas. We love Klopas, obviously, but he just doesn't seem to be the man for the job. And from what I'm hearing, I'm not sure if you guys heard the same, that they did try with a lot of managers throughout the off season, but nobody wanted to touch this organisation, which is another concern. But yeah, I think Klopas just isn't setting the team right for the players he has right now.
Yeah. Eray?
Yeah, I think it's Klopas. Look, I appreciate Klopas he bleeds fire, but I have not seen really any inspiring games where he's been the coach.
That magnet board. I know people love that magnet board, but it's got to go, please. It's got to go.
So the only place I want to push back here, guys, and Paul, you alluded to it a little bit, is, you said, you had heard some things about the organization had made pushes to hire bigger coaches. Nobody wanted to touch this organization. At the end of the day, Georg Heitz is still responsible for hiring Frank Klopas as manager, right?
Yeah.
And you can say he couldn't go get, and I'm just pulling these names out of nowhere. He couldn't go get Jesse Marsh. He couldn't go get Greg Berhalter or, something like that. You mean to tell me there wasn't any coach in the United States of America, in England, in anywhere that would take over this club? Like anywhere at all that would take this role. And so that is where, do I think Heights let us down? No, I think these have all been really good signings and they're not playing properly, but he made the decision to hold on to Frank Klopas instead of even making a risky hire at head coach. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's made me think of another question. Would we rather what we have, where it appears like all the signings are doing well, but the coach is wrong, or would we rather the right coach, but a 40% success rate on our players?
The right coach.
Right coach. I agree.
That's
I mean,
how
a good coach could unlock, the abilities of average players to make them above average players. A bad coach could luck into a successful team because he has good players. But to be a great team, you still need like an average coach. And I think right now Frank Klopas is not quite there. Maybe one day, hopefully.
They need another visit to the Greek restaurant.
Stuff them with Saganaki. That's really what we're missing. And then they'll play like gods.
Has Hugo been there yet? I really want to know that.
Sure he has, right? He spent some time in Greece.
Did he? Oh, that's right. He did play with Olympiacos.
Yeah.
That's true.
But did he ever go to Greek islands in Chicago, Greek town? That's the real question. That's the real Greek.
All right, that's where we're going to film the next hot takes from. We're going to go over there.
Look, I'm not one of the people on this call who has pressed things. All right, so I'll leave it there.
Sponsor us. That's all I'm saying. Sponsor us.
I was like, who? The Fire? Okay.
I drive down for that.
All right, guys. So from one Greek to another, our next question comes from another real name of Jackie Daytona. Jackie says that Georgios Koutsias is being underutilized by Frank compared to Barlow's 2 appearances and a lot more minutes. Koutsias just is not seeing the pitch. So why is he not the first striker on the bench? And I added this note. If one of you mentions Tom Barlow's press, I'm going to lose my mind because it has a 0% success rate. It doesn't work, guys. We're still giving up goals. Matt, go ahead.
But I really value Tom Barlow's press and what he brings when he pressures the defense in the back line. I just don't think Koutsias.
They have one of the highest press rates in the league.
Yeah, right. Tom Barlow, GOAT. No, I think this is a question that I've been thinking about a lot recently. After game 1, when Barlow came in and he missed that breakaway, I believed that Barlow would be brought on when they were holding leads. As a guy, like, John hates it, but whatever, like the high press, keeping the guys on their toes, the guy who's going to run around and cause chaos. And then Koutsias is the guy who comes on when you're down a goal because he's a little bit more dynamic and technical and better. But after the Columbus game, if I remember correctly, Frank brought Barlow on right after Columbus conceded, or Columbus scored to tie it, meaning that my working theory is now all fucked up in my head, and I really don't know what the logic is there. Maybe it is the press and Klopas is into it and no one else is, but I'd like to see Koutsias get a shot against Montreal, whether we're up or down, and see what he's able to do, because he scored a couple goals last year.
Can I just clarify? The anti-press thing is not general anti-press. It's that we've seen him do it twice and it's failed both times.
John hates the press, confirmed.
I hate the free press. I want to banish that part of the Constitution. No, but
We weren't
also
going
the
to
other
press
side.
on that.
What, Paul?
We weren't going to press you on that. Don't worry.
Yeah, right.
No, but other side of the coin too is it seems like every time this team tries to not lose or not concede instead of continuing to attack, they do just that. Eray, where are you on Barlow's pressing abilities?
All right. So I think, sure, he can press, whatever. But if he's not scoring goals, what does it matter? And dude, he has proved that he does not quite, well, okay. I'm not jumping to conclusions by saying that he can't finish just based on the one chance he had against Philly to potentially seal the game. Like, is that harsh?
It's not harsh to do it just on that, but he hasn't done it throughout his entire career. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean,
hey, he's clutch, though. 2 goals in the playoffs last year. That's pretty good, right?
Great. Where did the Red Bulls end up?
There's still more
It wasn't Tom
playoff
Barlow's
goals than the
fault.
Fire have.
Valid. Good point. Didn't think about it.
Is he better than Kasper Schmilko is the real question.
Yes. A brick wall would
I
be
think
better
so.
than Kasper Schmilko. But think about it analytically that Tom Barlow has 2 more goals than the Chicago Fire do in the playoffs since 2017. And it's actually wild to think about. That's where we're at.
Yeah, but again,
But what's
low
the Fire's
bar.
press rate in the playoffs?
all back to the press. What have we learned from this session of recording is that John hates the press. John is anti-pressed. That's really, really funny. Sorry, John. We're going
Never going to recover from this. Never going to recover. All right. There was a second half to that question from Jackie. Just a quick one from you guys. They still believe Kuipers was going to have 15 or more goal contributions this season. So I'm setting the over under 14.5 goals, just straight up goals for Hugo Kuipers this year for Juice. Paul, over or under?
Or 14 or over 14.5 goals. I'm taking it. I'm going the over. Life's too short to bet the under.
All right.
Over.
Matthew?
Going under. I think 13 is the number that we should expect this first season, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But I'm going under. I'm playing caveat. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm being a pessimist. I'm trying to be different.
A little over $1 million.
Here he goes. Here he goes. Yeah.
All right. This was a quick one, so I'm cutting you off, Eray. Yeah, no, I agree actually, Matt. I think under 14 and a half, and I think next year is when he takes that step and has a massive, potentially pushing 20.
You'll see.
And I got that take from Matt in the season opener of Hot Takes because he said it and it sounded smart. All right. Last question we have for today, folks, comes from the illustrious Pierre Baguette. This is definitely not our normal Eray, Joe Titman writing in. And he says the Chicago Hounds signature beer is better than Chicago Fire's signature beer. If you're not familiar with Chicago Hounds, they are our Major League Rugby team. They actually play at SeatGeek. Has anybody here had the Chicago Hounds beer? Okay, Paul.
I have.
Paul, care
It's
to weigh in
fine.
on this?
Yeah, it's from Revolution. So it's just kind of similar to the Fire. It's called Cold Time, and it's a lager, probably like 5%. I'm more of a IPA guy than a lager guy these days, so I prefer the hazy pitch. But if you like something light and crisp, the Cold Time is good. But the one thing that the Chicago Hounds have that's so much better than the Fire, as much as I love the return to red jerseys, the Chicago Hounds home jersey is green and white hoops. And I love that. And you guys know why I love that.
No, why do you love that, Paul? Curious.
Because
Rangers
I'm a
fan,
huge
right?
Yovo Town. No, Yovo Town, you silly doofus.
Paul's actually a huge fan of Queens Park Rangers 1992, 1993 third shirts. Brooks
Yeah.
logo, green and white hoops. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but they're awesome.
Nerd.
That is Queens Park Rangers, not Rangers Football Club.
So it's
Scottish
Rangers with
Premiership.
added Queen loving. You know, we
Yeah.
don't do the
Well,
Queen.
no,
We
we're
don't
the
do Queen
Rangers
shit
of
over
Queens
here.
Park. There's a difference.
Queens and Rangers, a Scottish Celtics fan's two least favorite things, I should say.
I will quit this pod if you keep that one. But yes, least two different things.
Look,
I've never
Also,
had the beer, John.
Queens as in Monarchs as well, just to specify.
Monarchs Park Rangers. Arai, Matt, anything to add on the beer debate?
No, I mean, I just like beer, you know? I'm sure it's great. I am a lager guy over an IPA guy, so I probably would like it better. But if it's Revolution, I'm a fan because it's a great brewing company. And if you've never done there, some shameless advertising for them. They do some great stuff. Check them out
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, man. We
I
all
might be
love
able to grab a case of it. I might try and bring it to the tailgate on Saturday if you're around.
We'll do a live taste test then. How about that?
Yes.
Cool.
Arai, any thoughts?
I like hazy pitch, but yeah, I enjoy lager, so might be good.
Hell yeah, might be good. Tune into Hot Takes Live when everyone here, well, not me, but them, will have had the beer because Paul's definitely bringing to the tailgate, and then we'll have more opinions on it. All right, Matt, that's all we got for the supporter stuff. You want to wrap us up?
Absolutely. John, thanks for walking us through all the questions. And of course, always great to debate and chat footy with the boys. I love when we lovingly disagree with each other because it makes things so much more interesting and it makes the true love really, really come out. Just a quick reminder of the schedule before we wrap up. Like John said, there's going to be a live Hot Takes episode the last Thursday of the month. You can find it on our Discord. We'll put the link to the Discord stage, not our Discord, the Chicago Fire Discord, run by our editor-in-chief, Alex Calabrese. We'll put the link in the description for you, so you can just copy and paste it into the browser. Super easy peasy. We were on for about an hour and a half last time, and that's an opportunity for you to come in, say hi, talk in person or in the chat, and that'll be on March 28th. Be sure to follow MIR97 Media on Instagram and Twitter. On Twitter, we have two accounts, MIR97 Pods and Men in Red 97. Paul, where can we find you on Twitter?
Good old Twitter. You can find me at CTPaul90.
Rye?
I'm at Eray Dursun, IERAYDURSUN.
John?
My Twitter's West 3 times, and all the E's are 3s. West, West, West.
Always a classic one. And mine is MShabes. That's MSHABES. Be sure to give us a follow. Follow the MIR accounts. Last promotion. This past Saturday, we did our first ever episode of Tailgate Talks, hosted by myself in support with John and Ryan Paul, both making an appearance in the video. Super, super great time. Super, super great video. Go check it out and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also keep your eye out. Arai, Jack, Joe, and I filmed an away day when we went to Columbus this past weekend. That should be up on the Men in Red 97 YouTube in just a couple days. That being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in all the way to the hour plus mark. I know it's a lot of time to contribute or to listen to us blab about the Chicago Fire, but we love it and we're very, very thankful that you're listening. So everyone have a great, great night. We'll see you against Montreal. And of course, Vamos Fire. Talk to you guys soon.
Fuck Ohio.